Welcome to Magic Beyond the Books. Today we're going to be talking about the scene where the Weasleys smash the fireplace. I'm Calen.
And I'm Rene. Warning, there are Harry Potter spoilers in this episode for all 7 books. So this is your official spoiler warning. Just to set up the scene, so this is from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, so the 4th book, and this chapter 4, which is called Back to the Burrow.
Yeah, and there are some things that happen in the chapter before Back to the Burrow, just before it, and it's really just to set the stage. Mrs. Weasley sends the letter to the Dursleys asking for permission for Harry to go to the Quidditch World Cup. There is this sort of scene where Vernon gets the letter. It's stamped all over the place. We'll put up something on the Instagram or wherever you are following us on social media of what the letter is supposed to look like that Mrs. Weasley sends. And is that an astronaut?
Yeah, I think so.
That's odd.
Yeah, a lot of these stamps are odd.
I would think they'd be all like magic themed.
Yeah,
even though this is being sent through Muggle Post, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what all these are supposed to be. I mean, there's a lot of the Queen.
Yeah.
But there's like a man with blonde hair and a mustache.
Mm-hmm.
There's what looks like a griffin.
Oh yeah.
An astronaut.
And then, cliffs. And then the car, the Ford Anglia, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, but there are owls. So it seems like it's just like, I mean, maybe obviously, I bet the artist wasn't going for, specific, trying to get 1-to-1 with what it would have been. I mean, that's what's that plant on the bottom? That's
I think this is a mandrake.
A mandrake, yeah. So there's like various references to the magical world, and then various references to the Muggle world with the Queen, which are, and I know we're getting very off topic right off the bat. This is what you love to hear from us. But do you think the wizarding world have any, or are as obsessed with the royal family as the Muggle world is?
Maybe. I mean, maybe Arthur got these stamps right, or so maybe yeah. He was like, maybe he's like, oh, I've been following the royal family, and we got to get a lot of Queen stamps.
He has a collection, like we'll get into later. He has a collection of plugs.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but so she sends this letter, right? Back to the actual thing, back to the actual scene, the pretext. So she sends the letter. Vernon gets the letter and he's distraught. He's like, what the hell is this? Who in their right mind would send something like this? This is insane. Who is this lady? And I believe Vernon makes references that she's a dumpy woman in the scene, which rude. But I guess that's something that's on brand for Vernon, even though he's probably 1,000 times the dumpiness of Mrs. Weasley.
Yeah, Vernon's supposed to be a big guy, and then Dudley is supposed to be quote unquote wider than he is tall. So yeah. How can he call anyone dumpy? But okay.
Yeah, if Miss Weasley is dumpy, then he's the entire dump truck.
Yeah, exactly.
In comparison. So Vernon gets a letter. He reads the letter. Miss Weasley is asking, can Harry come to the Quidditch World Cup? It's once in a lifetime or whatever, because it's being hosted in the United Kingdom. And then Vernon obviously initially is like, no, you're not going to this. This is insane. This is crazy wizard world stuff. And then Harry sort of feigns that he's going to give in and give in to this defeat, that he's not going to be able to go. And then he pulls out the big guns and he says, oh, I'm just going to go on and finish this letter to Sirius. And Vernon, now knowing who Sirius is like, oh, wait. Internal calculus brain going now. He's going to write to his murderous uncle that I am being mean to him and not letting him go to this once in a lifetime event. I mean, good on him for having that, for thinking on his feet, because if assuming that Sirius is an evil, murderous person, I would probably be, convinced to just let my nephew that I don't really like all that much to just go and leave my house for the rest of the summer.
Yeah, it's still a benefit to him. He gets Harry out of the house.
Exactly. So Vernon eventually changes his mind, or not eventually, immediately. It's on a dime, basically. He changes his mind and allows for the Weasleys to come pick Harry up, and that's where we sort of jump off into the scene that we're covering
Disgusting.
today.
Yeah, the only thing I want to mention about that setup is, so this is my question, and I don't really have any answers. I'm just kind of posing this out to the world, and I want to get your opinion. But so Sirius Black, what does Petunia know or not know about Sirius Black? Right?
I don't know.
Because this is the best friend of her sister's husband.
Yeah.
And they're described as being inseparable, and I'm referring to James and Sirius are described as being inseparable and like brothers, and Sirius lives with James and his family when they're young. So it seems like if you're so close, if this is the godfather to the child, if this is he's the best man at their wedding, how does Petunia not know who this person is?
I'm gonna guess that she knows little, if not nothing, about Sirius, because I think that Petunia would have maybe told, but I don't know. So I think that to answer the question, I think that maybe she knows his name. That's it. And from the rest of her knowledge of Sirius, I think she knows of the stories that are told about him, that he's this mass murderer. But I don't know. I mean, from what I understand about Lily and Petunia's relationship, is that like after she goes to Hogwarts, it's like excommunicated from or at least Petunia is just like, nah, you're basically not my sister. I'm treating you like you're not family anymore. Is that wrong? Is there more information that comes out about that later on in the series?
Well, I guess that's kind of how I somewhat see it too. But there's a couple things that make me think it's not totally the case, because, well, one, she knows Harry's name. Remember, like in the beginning, she knows that that they have a son called Harry. So, like, how would she know that if she straight up wasn't talking to her?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, in the 7th book, Harry discovers a letter from his mom to Sirius that Sirius had saved. And she says that Petunia got her a vase for Christmas that Harry had like broken on accident. So it seems like, okay, if you're getting her Christmas presents, her son's name, you have some level of communication. Or maybe she's just sending you like her Christmas cards. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that maybe that is sort of their form of communication, is that they're not on a let's go out to this event, let's go to the farmer's market, let's go on family vacations together. It's more of a, yeah, we'll send you letters every once in a while, we'll send you Christmas card. I don't know if Christmas cards go from Petunia to Lily, but I would think that maybe Lily, trying to still maintain sort of a relationship with Petunia, I think that maybe that would be something that happens.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Petunia, I don't see any reason why Petunia would, why Sirius's name, maybe, other than maybe he was in our wedding, or sends them wedding photos or something like that, would be mentioned in correspondence between Lily and Petunia.
The only reason I bring it up is because, like, in the 3rd book, we know that like he's on TV as a wanted criminal, and like you see his face and his name, and Petunia doesn't go, oh, like that's a wizard, or that's like she doesn't seem to recognize him at all, and or even by name. And then now Harry's like all of a sudden have a godfather that he writes to, and that like she just seems to have no reaction to this person that I feel like she would know. Like you said, she would at least know his name.
Yeah, but so are you saying that in this particular scene that she has no reaction? Because I think it's just a conversation between Harry and Vernon in this scenario, or just you're just wondering in general.
I guess I'm wondering in general, like all these times that Sirius comes up on the TV as a wanted criminal, comes up on newspapers as a wanted criminal, and then now he's like, when Harry comes home and says, "Surprise, I have a godfather," and then he starts writing to him, like she never says anything, or she never is like, I guess I'm just like, what does she know, not know? She's not like, oh wait, why are you saying he's a criminal? Like I thought he was besties with your with your dad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no reaction whatsoever, no recognition, no like commentary, nothing from her.
Yeah, I think that she knows his name, and that's really it. And I think maybe when she sees the news that he is involved in these sort of things or accused of these things, I think she might just throw that out as just like, oh, look, Lily and James just getting into trouble, mixing themselves with the ne'er-do-wells and the who people who aren't very good for this world. So
they don't want to be normal, so they're definitely bad.
Yeah, they're like anything if you're wizard presenting, if you're wearing a robe, doesn't matter if you're going to like a actual thing you need to wear a robe for. They're like, oh, you look like a wizard, you're out. It's like the Red Scare of the of the 1970s or whenever that was.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
She's like, she sees like the Matrix, and she sees their long
yeah
long jackets, and she's like, too close, don't like it.
Yeah. So yeah.
Anyway,
so
yeah, but we can get back into it. I just wanted to. That was a question that's just been on my mind.
Yeah. No. That was a good question. But so they eventually Vernon flips on a dime. He's he lets Harry, or allows Harry to be picked up by the Weasleys, and they're supposed to come on Sunday or whatever day at 5 p.m. And so when we get to the actual day, they say Vernon is all dressed up. He's in his best suit. He's ready to accept these strangers into his house. And honestly, even though he has this subliminal, or just not necessarily like outward presenting hatred of these people, he he gets dressed up. He's trying to present himself well, and maybe that is more of a self-serving thing for himself and his family. But he is trying to do some sort of a nice gesture for accepting these strangers into his house. Maybe that's a nice little hospitality thing that he's learned in his sales career at Grunnings. You catch more bees, or you catch more flies with honey than vinegar.
I took it as him trying to be impressive, trying to be kind of formidable, almost like if let's say you're going to go somewhere and you're going to see an ex-boyfriend, an ex-girlfriend, and you don't like them. You're not doing it to look good for them, but you want to look good to be like, look how well I'm doing.
Yeah, I could see that too. That he's doing, and like I said, he could be doing it for a self-serving thing, like you said, and he probably is being very, puts on his nice Rolex, and he's around these people that are he thinks lesser of, and they are dressed in these weird robes and tattered garments, and they're wearing weird shoes. Maybe I don't really know what kind of shoes that wizards wear, but yeah, they're not dressed like esteemed people do in the Muggle world. But yeah, so they're obvious. So then the Weasleys are late, which I think he takes offense to as well.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And what do you feel about the initial like time they're waiting for the arrival of them.
I feel like, yes, I can actually kind of understand with the Dursleys, like if you say you're going to be there, I think it was like 5 p.m.
Yeah.
to pick him up, and then it's 6, 7 p.m. Like it's kind of like, what do we have to wait around for you and like not eat dinner or not like move on with our day? It is kind of like rude to show up late. But on the flip side, I mean, the Weasleys have like a million kids. I feel like once you're in that, and they just like, I feel like they just live in a state of chaos. So you can kind of be like forgiving to the fact that people, I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but I just feel like people with a lot of kids are often late because one kid forgot something or this happened and it's hard to get out of the house.
Yeah, it's always something. It's always something. But yeah, so they show up late. There is a lot of tension, and something I really caught on to was like, it must have been. And I mean, as a child, you probably get used to it, and if you grow up in that atmosphere, it's probably second nature to you. But there seemed to be so much tension, and this is palpable in the other sort of insight we get into the Dursleys' home when Vernon is hosting that guy from a company who's trying to sell drills to him. And it just seems like you're walking on eggshells if you're Harry, and nothing you do is right. Everything you do, it can be seen as a severe like step out of place for what you think that the Dursleys want you to act, how they want you to act. And I just feel it must have been torture to live in that house, honestly. Like your whole life, it sucks. And I found this this Reddit post, and I don't mean to get sad, but it seems like Harry never learned how to play. Like I feel like they always would have discouraged anything good that Harry could have gotten, and anything that was beneficial to him, seemed like that wasn't made a priority or whatever, and it was always Dudley that was the center of attention.
Yeah, I see it like to kind of like on the happier side. I feel like that's part of why Harry finds so much like home and love and everything with the Weasleys. The Weasleys are just all play. They're so much fun, especially Fred and George. And even Ginny, we get that later more when her kind of personality comes out. Like she's so playful and fun and joking and, like with Quidditch and stuff. So it's like, and Harry loves Quidditch so much and like it's that level of excitement. So I'm happy that it's like what he was kind of didn't get to have. He gets all of that with the Wizarding World and especially with the Weasleys.
Yeah, the Weasleys in this entire story of Harry Potter, they act as the foil to the Dursleys and how they raised Harry, where everything in the Dursleys' mind needs to be normal, needs to be in its place, and then the Weasleys are the polar opposite, where it should go with the flow. They're just living in the, like you said, in the chaotic energy, and they're comfortable in it. They're comfortable being uncomfortable at times. But so they get there, and to say and to kind of lead into the chaos that they bring with them. And that
speaking
sort of
of chaos,
surrounds them. When they arrive, unknowingly to Harry, they're going to arrive in the fireplace, which has been blocked up by an electric fireplace that apparently has been, I'm thinking that that's probably a luxury item that they have, maybe in the 90s, but yeah, so they arrive in the fireplace and they are immediately just trapped in the fireplace.
Yeah. I think it starts with Arthur, because you go one at a time, right? So I think it's Arthur and then Fred or George and then Ron, and they're just getting like blocked up behind this electric fireplace. Which, I mean, you and I, like, Calen, have you ever had a fireplace?
So my grandparents had one. Never have I seen one in use.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really know how fireplaces work either completely, because we're Florida people, so I've never lived in a house that had one. I feel like I've seen them. I've seen the electric one. So uh, yeah, I guess you're just putting the electric box sort of thing in where a normal fire would be.
Yeah, I would assume that because the fireplace is literally just I mean, it's like a fire pit, like outside. A fire pit could just be a bunch of bricks that are just stacked in a certain like arrangement, and
Yeah.
then there is inflow of air from the house, and then there's outflow from the to the chimney. And if there's no fire in there, then there's no real risk or whatever for putting something there.
But then, like, if you put a electric fire, are you blocking up the top so
I
stuff
think so,
doesn't
yeah.
come down? Okay, okay.
I would hope so. I would hope that's part of the design that snow and rain and whatever else is coming in, like birds or whatever, aren't just flying into your house then, and then just
Yeah.
making their home in your fireplace.
Well, my question is, okay, if you're a child listening to this, cover your ears for a second. People that believe in Santa Claus and they have electric fireplaces, like what if you're a kid and you had that, like where did you think Santa went?
I don't know. I didn't have a fireplace. That thought never crossed my mind. Like it was never. I never thought about the logistics of Santa delivering presents. If you're a kid, you aren't thinking a lot about how Santa delivers presents. Like maybe if you are an adult and you put maybe a minute of time into thinking how ridiculous the idea is, yes, you think you're like, okay. And they even cover this in like the Santa Claus movie. They're like, oh, Tim Allen's character is like, I'm supposed to go into that thing, that little pipe, because I think that eventually fireplaces are, traditional fireplaces are phased out, and it just becomes like a little pipe, that outlet at the top of the house, very small. And so when he's like going around to the houses, he's like, oh my God, I'm supposed to go in there. And then he just like magically just becomes the size of the little small pipe, and he goes down. But
yeah, but you're telling me that as a child, you never once were like, how is this guy getting into my house? I don't
no,
have a fireplace.
nope. I just accepted the presents. I was like, they showed up and they say they're from him, so I'm just gonna believe it. Thanks, Santa.
Yeah. My parents told us that Santa, for the people that didn't have a fireplace, he had a magic key so he could go in the front door.
Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah, I know. My mom never came up with. I mean, I didn't ask any questions, so I probably made it very easy on my mom. I was oblivious. So I think that definitely it makes it a lot easier if you do have a traditional fireplace to be like, no, he just comes in and he just flies down the fireplace, and then hopefully the kid isn't like, well, that's like 30 feet. How does he not like break his legs or something like that? But hopefully the kid isn't smart enough to. Hopefully the kid is smart enough to ask that initial question, but not to follow it up with a more inquisitive question of, that's really high.
There's no way Dudley's smart enough to be questioning this with the electric fireplace.
No, I guarantee you he's in my camp where he's just accepting the presents and he's like, I don't even care. I don't even care where they came from. He could be coming in through my bedroom window. As long as the presents get to their spot on Christmas morning, I'm none the wiser. I'm just going to take it as it comes.
As long as it's no less than 37,
yes.
I'm good.
Yeah. So they end up in this fireplace, which I have very brief knowledge of fireplaces. But I would assume that the area that is within a fireplace to send the air up, obviously if you're in a wizarding fireplace, it's going to be bigger because it's going to be utilized for the Flu Network. So you need to be as big, at least as big as a person. But for Muggle fireplaces, they have different priorities. So it's probably smaller. And I would imagine they were just being stacked up.
That's what I'm thinking too, yeah.
And they just become like this cheerleading formation within the fireplace. And they're just stacked up on top of each other as they go. And so as I think it's Arthur, then the twins. I don't know which order they come in. But they all end up in the fireplace. And then one of my favorite quotes was between Ron, or it just from Ron. He says, "What are we doing here? Has something gone wrong?" And then Fred and George are like, "No, this was the plan. This is exactly what we wanted to do, Ron. We were supposed to end up one on top of each other, one on top of another in this fireplace. That was always the plan. You didn't get the itinerary."
Yes, that is my favorite quote from this scene. They go, yeah, "Oh no, Ron, this is exactly where we wanted to end up." And then George goes, "Yeah, we're having the time of our lives here," as he's like muffled against the wall.
Yeah, and okay, so let's get into like I guess we've gone through I guess Arthur and the three boys' point of view, them just appearing into this fireplace. But there's four people outside in their house, not outside, but they're inside their house, and now there's just four people in their fireplace, and they have to be just absolutely their minds just boggled. Like I guess maybe Dudley is maybe like, oh, that definitely makes sense. Like Santa does that all the time. But,
exactly.
But like Vernon and Petunia are like, we just told him that story. Like we didn't think that there was actual people that came down the fireplace.
Yeah, they're expecting them to drive up in some, what did they call
Mercedes
it, like
Benz
car. Yeah, and knock on the door and do the whole thing, and then all of a sudden they're suddenly inside of their house.
Inside, but also outside, and so I don't think that, you know, if I was a Muggle, I would be absolutely. I mean, this is where I sympathize with them. Was like, oh my God, there's somebody in my fireplace that I didn't know would ever. I didn't even know that was a possibility. And then Arthur is sitting there. He's like, okay, we got to get out of this situation. Like we're stuck in this fireplace. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna blow it up. I'm just going to explode the fireplace. And then as Vernon, I mean, I relate to him. If a guy that I don't know, the only interaction I've ever gotten with this family was I received a letter in the mail covered in stamps, and and it's not even that guy. It was his wife that did this. And then the guy shows up and just poofs into my fireplace and then explodes it. I would be livid. I would be beside myself. I'd be like, oh my God, like I'm being nice. I'm letting you go to this thing. And now the guy that shows up, he just destroys my living room.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah. And also I guess, you know, in book 2, I don't know if he knows this or makes this connection, but the twins and Ron come in a flying car and pull the bars off of the side of their house and take Harry through the window. So yeah, your like opinion of this family is so low,
so damaged, and so the funny thing about it is I found another Reddit post that was like, and I guess we'll get into the later part that actually does more of the damage to the reputation of the wizarding community, but this definitely hurts the wizarding community by doing all of this. Like they're not trusting you at all. They're not trusting you any more than they already did, and probably less so that you just came in and exploded their living room. So it's just odd as Arthur is the Muggle aficionado that he would he would make these missteps, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess thinking about it from his perspective, like, okay, so you find yourself and your 3 sons stuck in a fireplace. All of your sons are underage and can't apparate. I mean, I think if this were me in the situation, I'm blowing it up too.
Yeah. I think I'm in agreement. In that situation, if you found yourself in that situation, for sure, yeah, I'm blowing it up.
And also he knows he can put it back, whereas the Dursleys don't realize, like, if you put this back by Muggle means, it's going to take you a long time, right? But he knows, like, oh, I can fix this up real quick.
Yeah, and I wrote this down. I said, I guess Arthur is acting under the assumption that he's obviously going to fix all of this, but the Dursleys have no idea that he's going to fix. He's under any obligation to fix all of this stuff, or that he has or that wizards have the capability of repairing an exploded fireplace. So I guess I can see both sides of this. And then as they explode the fireplace, they get into the living room. They exchange some, or at least Arthur tries to shake Vernon's hand. And Vernon obviously, and I would sympathize with Vernon here. I'm not shaking your hand. You just destroyed my living room. And then he says he connected it to the Flu Network because he has some contacts or whatever within the Department of Ministry of Magic.
Yeah, again, Arthur with the contacts. Like, Arthur's just chatting it up at the ministry. He's like, oh, I got a contact at the Flu Network. I got a contact at the Magical Games and Sports. Like, I got people to take care of me when I need to be taken care of.
Yeah, he's that dad who's like, oh, I got a guy. I got the guy. I got a guy.
He has a guy for everything.
I got a flu guy. I got a ticket guy. I got a car guy. I got a lawnmower guy. But he's got the flu powder. Now, so I would think that, maybe wizards they work under different assumptions. But I would like for there to be a little bit more precaution taking when they're just connecting a random fireplace to the Flu Network, because you don't know what the fireplace is like. I would like to see some sort of like AT&T Spectrum sort of a technician come out and knock on the door, be like, and maybe you don't have to say you're from the wizarding world. You just say like, oh, we're doing some generic like compliance work for the United Kingdom or whatever, and we're gonna check some things out, blah 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 blah. Just make sure it's all clear. But I would like to see some sort of technician.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was reading up on like Flu Network travel, and you do have to go through the ministry if you want to add a fireplace to the Flu Network.
Yeah.
You can take it off yourself, but if you want it added, you have to go through the ministry. So, you're already going through the ministry. You're already supposed to be going through like the quote unquote proper channels, but then the ministry is just like, oh, I'll just hook this up and I'm not going to like check it. I'm not going to go out and look. I'm not going to do a site visit.
Yeah. That's all it is. Like they're just they're just trying to cut through the red tape of government. And the red tape is there for a reason sometimes, to make sure you and your sons don't get stuck in a fireplace, stacked up on top of each other. But then, so I did note that, so as they're doing this, this interaction between Vernon and Arthur, Aunt Petunia, there's a quote, Aunt Petunia started chewing her tongue again. That's a piece of information that I didn't think would, I've never chewed on my tongue. Have you chewed on your tongue ever?
No, I don't. Yeah, this is maybe they're trying, like, maybe it's kind of accomplishing the same thing as like if someone like grinds their teeth, or like just some type of showing that she's like irritated. Is that what it's supposed to be, or that she's nervous?
Yeah, I think it might be that she's nervous. I don't think that this is some sort of literary device where chewing her tongue could mean like she's not going to say anything, like holding your tongue, or like holding your, like, I don't know what the actual, form of
oh yeah, like biting your tongue.
Biting your tongue or whatever. But I don't think that's it. I think they literally mean chewing her tongue, which I would assume is just a nervous tick, which I would be nervous too if some strangers comes in and like we said a million times, destroys my living room.
And last time you encountered wizards, Hagrid gave Dudley a pig's tail and he had to have it removed. Like, you had to have surgery, basically. So yeah, she's just, and she already hates wizards and witches. So you're just, like you said, Arthur's just digging this ditch further and further. Yeah.
But so then he's as they arrive, they're doing a little they're doing their pleasantries, and I think this is part of the initial pleasantries that they exchange, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's an electric fireplace or whatever." And then Arthur said, "They run off of electricity, do they?" He said knowledgeably. "Ah, yes, I can see the plugs. I collect plugs," he added to Uncle Vernon. "And batteries. Got a very large collection of batteries. My wife thinks I'm mad, but there you are." And he's saying like, "Oh, you got batteries. I got batteries too. Like, we're both normal, right?" And then, so like you said, he's just digging it deeper. Like these people, are not picking up what you're putting down at all. They don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, he's like, let me talk Muggle talk, and then he doesn't realize like that's what's in people's like junk drawers.
Yeah. What's up, fellow kids?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then they I think maybe Arthur shoos them off. The twins go get the trunk from Harry's room, and then they mischievously drop some candy as they're attempting to get back into the fireplace to go back to the burrow. And so Fred goes, or I don't know which, again, the twins go in whatever order they go in. Fred goes, George goes, they leave behind the candy. Ron goes, and then as Harry is about to get in, something happens.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Dudley apparently has taken upon himself to take this piece of candy off of the ground that I guess
that Fred quote unquote dropped.
Yeah, that he dropped, but he's eating ground candy.
They're supposed to be in a wrapper, I think. I think they're wrapped. They're not like a loose candy.
Yeah, and I guess if I saw a piece of candy that was in a wrapper on in my house on the floor, I probably wouldn't be too worried about where it's been.
And also before this, we learned that he's on a diet and he's only been eating like celery and grapefruit and everything. So he's definitely craving a little sweets. He's going to take ground candy. He's got to take what he can get.
Yeah. So he's got to get all the calories he can. He's gone from probably 3,000 calories a day to probably like 1,500 calories a day with these grapefruit or whatever that he's eaten every so often. It's slim pickings around the Dursley household these days. But we also learned that Harry has been hoarding some cake, so he's living large up in his room while Vernon and Dudley are scraping by on grapefruit and celery. That's not even a healthy diet.
Petunia. I know.
Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't. I don't know why they don't just feed him balanced meals like a normal child. You don't have to
engorge yourself, and you don't have to starve yourself. You can go right down the middle. That's how most people eat.
Yeah, but what if we're talking disgusting? These two children, Dudley's eating candy off the floor. Harry's storing cakes under his floorboard and eating them over the course of weeks. Like, both of them are just little garbage boys. Is this what having sons is like?
It probably is. Now, to Harry's defense, though, if he presented that cake, it was going in the trash immediately. So it's either no cake or you get floor cake. So
for under the floorboards cake.
Yeah. So if I'm in that scenario, I probably do the same thing as Harry. Maybe I don't keep it in the floor because I don't know how often they go into his room. There's probably better places to put that cake, not necessarily in the floorboards.
Yeah.
By the insulation.
Yeah,
or whatever.
This is so
it's
gross.
Probably getting real hot. It's probably experiencing some wild changes in temperature under that floorboard. I don't know how it's lasted that long, and it's in the middle of summer too, by the way. So it's not being stored at the recommended temperature that you're supposed to store cake or confectionaries at. So okay, so Dudley gets this candy. He falls right into the trap. Fred and George have very cleverly predicted his moves.
Yeah, Fred and George are little evil geniuses.
They are.
They knew they can't present it outright. You just drop it, and he's gonna take it. Like, just genius, genius,
devious
pranksters.
boys. And so Dudley picks it up right as Harry is getting into there. There's a scuffle. Something happens. He looks back, and I guess at this point his tongue isn't as big as it's going to get, but it's big, and he's choking on his tongue. And all hell breaks loose. Vernon goes, Petunia goes, Arthur goes, and they're trying to wrangle the situation and get it back and trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, their reactions. Petunia's reaction is to scream and try to yank his tongue out of his mouth. And Vernon's reaction is to start throwing things at Mr. Weasley.
Yeah, and that's what it eventually like makes Harry leave, because he's like, all right, I gotta. There's bullets flying. I gotta get out of this situation. I gotta, beam me up, Scotty. I gotta get out of here.
Exactly. He's like, deuces, Arthur.
Yeah. I'm not getting.
I gotta take care of me, man.
Yeah. And I guess and it's funny because right before that too, Arthur tries to make Vernon feel bad for not saying goodbye to Harry. And immediately after, it's like, wow, I should have never felt bad for this. I should have never felt bad for not saying goodbye to him, because all they do is just come in and they just fuck shit up. Like they don't know how else to operate. I mean, I guess the Weasleys, they're going from they're operating from a very different from a different worldview. They can fix everything. They can just whip up. They can just fix the fireplace or whatever. And I did see another Reddit post that was like, as Arthur is like trying to fix Dudley's tongue, Petunia is like ready to like die for like she will not let Arthur anywhere near her son. Very protective. Even though Arthur, we know that he's going to fix him. He's gonna do whatever to fix him, because he's probably very, very embarrassed, very distraught that he's done this to this Muggle household. But yeah, Harry leaves, and then after we figure out what else happened.
Basically, Harry leaves. The tongue swells up to I don't think I wrote it down.
You said like 4 feet.
Okay, so Dudley's tongue finally gets to 4 feet, and then that's when the Dursleys go, okay, you can fix it now.
And so I think this very much reminds me of, and I'm going to show this picture. This very much reminds me of this scene from a very funny show that we both like. Of them trying to pull out this hot dog from this guy's mouth. This is exactly what I picture when I think of this scene.
This is I think you should leave with Tim Robinson. You can watch it on Netflix.
For the listeners. This is the hot dog scene. If you don't remember, haven't seen this show, it's the scenario is this guy this lady comes by his office. He's about to chow down on this hot dog in his office, and this lady comes by. He's like, okay, we got a meeting. And he's like, I don't think you could do that. I don't think that's allowed. And so they go to this meeting. He puts the hot dog in his sleeve, and eventually, as he's eating this hot dog, he accidentally. Oh, what happens? He the guy asks him a question, and he breathes in, and he sucks the hot dog into his throat, and then he starts choking, and so the picture is this entire conference room. He's like, his eyes are just like wide open,
bugging,
forced up against the wall. Somebody's got like their hands on both sides of his head trying to like stabilize it, and they're trying to rip this hot dog out of his throat.
All the people that he works with in this conference room. How dare you do this to me? This is my favorite scene from this show. I can't stop laughing. You're trying to make me hysterical laugh over this.
All right, I'll take it off the screen. But that's essentially what I imagine when this scene was going on was that they're very desperately trying to figure out
Hold him
how to
down.
mend this situation.
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't get this scene where the Weasleys come to the Dursleys' house. We didn't get this in the movies, but if you need an illustration of this scene, go watch I Think You Should Leave, and that particular scene with the hot dog getting stuck in his mouth.
Yeah, it's like, I think just Google I think you should leave hot dog meeting, and it'll probably come up on TikTok.
You can't cancel lunch, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so then we eventually figure out that they fix it. And then that's sort of the end of the scene. But I want to kind of follow up a little bit more about like I guess what not necessarily their motives, but the twins are very lucky that Dudley ate the candy before everybody left.
That's true. That he didn't. Yeah, that he wasn't smart enough to be like, "Ooh, let me like hide this, and then I'm going to eat this in my room later when my parents aren't looking."
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, it could have gone much worse. He probably could have. And I don't know. Maybe I guess they're testing it out on him.
Yeah, the twins later. I know they talk about like testing out their products on first years, but I'm under the understanding that they always test it on themselves first, and then they try to test it on other people just to make sure everyone reacts the same, because that's what they do with the first years. So I imagine that they've tested this on themselves, it works on themselves, and now they're like, "Ooh, let's just test it on Dudley because we want to mess with him because we know that he always bullies Harry."
Yeah, and I mean, deservedly so. I mean, Dudley is a mean little boy, but I don't necessarily think he deserves to suffocate to death on his own tongue. But
I guess the Ministry would have detected magic in the house with no, maybe, and then they would have been able to like respond. Yeah,
I would definitely hope so. But I think honestly though, if they were able, and maybe their like magic detectors aren't as I guess specific as maybe we would think, where like maybe we think, oh, we know exactly what the charm that's being performed. Maybe their magic detectors are just like, oh, magic is going on. So obviously, if magic is going on, there's a wizard there. Arthur is there. Maybe something happened. He was trying to, fix something, and then maybe on Monday when he goes into work, he's like, oh yeah, this happened and this happened, so I had to fix X, Y, and Z. They don't necessarily know that his sons almost killed this Muggle boy. And
I don't know if it would, like, this is used for pranks and stuff, so I'm sure it's made where it's like, the magic, your tongue's just gonna get long, but it's not gonna hurt you or whatever.
But yeah, so I just think that being as the twins are, they're not really thinking of all the consequences. But if say Dudley does like suffer some sort of accident and the Ministry figures out what happened, like Arthur might get fired, or
they'd be in big trouble. They do all kinds of risky stuff. They flew the car through a Muggle neighborhood.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Like, they're living on the edge.
Yeah.
This is the first time we get to see Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. The tongue toffee is the first one we get to see, but there's a ton of them, and I actually have a list. Do you want to hear all?
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
So here's all the products that I could make a list of. It's about 30 products that they make in the course of a couple of years. Mm-hmm. There's tongue toffee, of course. Then trick and fake wands. Weasley's Wildfire Whiz Bangs, which are the fireworks. And there's the basic Blaze box and the Deflagration Deluxe. They're really all about these alliteration names.
The what? Say that one again?
There's the Weasley's Wildfire Whiz Bangs, which are their fireworks. They have different boxes. They have the basic Blaze box and the Deflagration Deluxe.
Oh,
these are hard to say.
Yeah.
Then, of course, what's needed? They made a bruise healing paste for all their things. They made canary creams that turn you into a canary. Decoy detonators. Edible dark marks to make you sick. Extendable ears.
Those come in handy.
Yeah. Wonder Witch products. There's a Wonder Witch product line, which includes guaranteed 10-second pimple vanisher.
Okay.
And love potions.
Gotcha. So that 10-second pimple vanisher is sort of like Instagram filters.
Exactly. Instagram filters in 1994.
Uh-huh.
Reusable hangman.
Reusable hangman.
Yeah, like if you're playing hangman, just like a little figure thing.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, headless hats. So you put the hat on and makes your head disappear, go invisible. Shield hats, cloaks, and gloves. Peruvian instant darkness powder.
Okay. So that's like a Batman thing.
Yeah. Then they have this line of muggle magic tricks for people like Arthur that like that kind of stuff. Then they have patented daydream charms.
Ah.
They have their...
That'd be cool. I would like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
A dream in a bottle? I would definitely take that.
Exactly, yeah. Like give yourself a nice little like daydream, kind of get your mind off of stuff if you need to just like, you got a lot going on, you want to take a little break. Portable swamp. Then they have their skiving snack boxes.
I don't know how that would come in handy. Portable swamp, you said?
Yeah. Portable swamp for all your swamp needs when you just need to create a swamp. Then they have
you need to distract an ogre.
Yeah, exactly. Then they have their skiving snack boxes for getting out of class or work or whatnot, which include puking pastilles, fainting fancy, fever fudge, and nosebleed nougat.
Which I believe there was there. You said there was a fainting one.
Yeah, fainting fancy.
Yeah, they had that. They tested that on first years or whatever in book 5, I believe. And Hermione was mad.
Yeah, and then they have a punching telescope. So you look in the telescope, you get punched.
Oh, that's great.
Then they have pygmy puffs, which are some sort of animal thing that like Ginny has one. Then they have self-inking, smart answer, and spell checking quills.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice.
Yeah, that's a handy one.
Yeah. So some of these are like good, like actual solid, like
helpful,
good ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one is poo.
Okay.
Which I guess is a like laxative.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
But yeah, so that was the full list that I could find from the books, which was about 30 products, depending on how you're like counting them, because some of them are like multi-product things. And then I tried to look where you can find these things or versions of these things from like in the actual real Muggle world. Okay. So there's only 2 that I could find, at least at this point in time when we're recording this podcast. There's 2 places that have the Weasley Wizard Wheezes storefront in the real world. One is at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. And then the other is the actual, like the Warner Brothers studio tour in London. You could go actually like look at the sets.
Oh, that's cool.
And that one, the one in London, that's the actual set. So that was designed to look like an 18th century storefront. So that's kind of like the style that they were going off of. And apparently it took over 3 months to build. So 3 months to build just this Weasley Wizard Wheezes that was in like one scene of one movie, I think. And that's mostly due to the time is mostly due to the fact that there's that 20-foot Weasley mannequin thing on the storefront, that has the hat.
Uh-huh.
And the props people for the movie created 120 different products to fill out the shop.
That's really cool.
So yeah, those are my little Weasley Wizard Wheezes facts.
No, they're definitely some enterprising gentlemen. They're putting in the work. They're definitely putting in the work. If they're testing all this stuff on themselves, they're dedicated to their craft. And they're looking, I mean, they got the money, they got the cash flow, they got the good benefactor coming in handy later on in this book. When they they make a smart bet, which I guess they never get their money back from Ludo.
Hmm.
But Harry gives him a nice bit of cash for from his winnings
Yeah,
of the
Harry,
Triwizard Tournament.
Harry saw that Tung Tung toffee and he's just like
I need more
smacks
of
his
that.
money on the
Yeah,
table immediately.
give me more of that. Sign me up. That's what he said. He's like, you guys, hey, I like these guys. These guys know funny. These guys know how to do it.
Yeah, this is not canon at all, but I like to imagine the Weasleys coming into a sort of Shark Tank type
Oh yeah,
situation. And it's Harry sitting there like listening to their pitch. Today we're here to present Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. And we're
yeah.
looking for 10%.
10%, yeah, 10% equity, or like they strike me as the type of Shark Tank guys who would come in and they'd be like, we're looking for $1 million for 5% equity or something like that, something insane. And then they're like, okay, that's pretty good. Like you might have some good, you probably have some good revenue or whatever. And they're like, oh no, we don't even have we haven't even sold anything yet. And the sharks would be like, oh my, what are you talking about? Like you haven't sold anything yet. And then Harry is just on the end, like just absolutely infatuated with these gentlemen. He's like, I've seen a lot of pitches in my day, but this is something. I don't even care about the numbers. I'm gonna give you exactly what you want right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to clarify, he's going to watch Ron go through an entire school year with a broken wand, with a broken wand and do nothing. But the minute the Weasleys put Tung Tung Toffee on the table, he's like, I'm in. I'm investing.
Yeah. Just slapping the button, just like buy.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So they get their money's worth from or he, at least Harry, I think, gets his money's worth. He's like, that thing you did to Dudley earlier in the year, that's worth every penny of my winnings. So he's like, I can't repay you enough for what you've done.
Yeah, or maybe this is a strategy. He's like, oh, I gotta get with I gotta get with this younger sister here. So if I pay off her older brothers, this will be a good in for me.
Yeah, they won't give me too much guff when I make my move later on.
Yeah, exactly.
But do you want to get into the hero or villain of the scene? I have a villain.
Yeah, yeah. You want to do villain first?
Well, I have a villain. I don't have a hero, so I was just saying hero/villain.
Okay, how about you do a villain and I'll do a hero?
Okay. Villain of the scene is definitely the twins. As we've discussed, like so you could say after our conversation, I kind of narrowed it down to the twins, but you could say all of the Weasleys, maybe excluding Ron in this scenario, are the villain, because they just show up and it's all madness. It's all chaos from there. Obviously, they make a mistake. They're not as forward looking as they should have when they didn't know that there was an electric fireplace, and Arthur has to blow it up. And then the twins obviously leave the candy, and Dudley finds himself in a life or death situation from eating some floor candy.
And I feel like what makes it worse, which is I don't think they really realize this, but it's not just that they're muggles and they like to be normal, but Petunia strikes me as this person that's like, nothing's allowed on the countertops, and she has to have everything clean. Like she won't go to bed with dirty dishes in the sink. Like she's got to have it like perfect. So this is like a nightmare for her.
And all of the Weasley children have just grubby fingers. Like they're the type of kids, and if you've had this friend as a child, but like you hand them like some video game remote and then they just hand it back to you and it's just greasy. It's so greasy. It's like they just had their hand in a bottle of olive oil. It's so greasy. They hand it back to you and you're like, how did you do that? Where did all that come from? So they just strike me as that family. Maybe not maybe not Ginny as much, because Ginny seems sort of above the fray a little bit. But yeah,
I don't know,
the
because
boys.
I mean, there's got to be the effect of having that many brothers, but there's a scene later in the, I'm trying to think, I think it's in the fifth book or the fifth or sixth book, when Ginny realizes that if you, the Order of the Phoenix is having these meetings, and if she throws little like, uh, so I don't know, she's throwing something dirty at the door to see if there's been an imperturbable charm, so you can't like listen in.
Hmm.
And she's got her hands all dirty, and she's trying to go to
Oh.
dinner, and Mrs. Weasley is telling her to like clean up her hands, and
No.
she's like breaking in the broom shed and flying people's brooms. So she's definitely got some dirt under her fingernails.
Okay. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's all of the Weasleys are they got some dirty hands.
Like, think about like people with like Cheeto hands.
Yeah, they have perpetual Cheeto hands. The Weasleys do.
Cheeto hair,
those
Cheeto
are
hands.
my villains.
Okay, that's a good one. I guess I took a different side of it. My hero for the scene is actually Arthur. That's what I said. And the reason why is the Weasleys get the insight from Harry. They know that the Dursleys are not the best to him, and like haven't treated him the best. They know that they locked him in his room in book 2. So they're coming in knowing this stuff about the Dursleys, but so Arthur could have been like mean to them or just short with them, but he comes in, he tries to shake Vernon's hand, he apologizes for the fireplace and he says he'll fix it. He compliments their home. He like tries to make conversation, break the awkward silence. He even like Dudley's acting all weird, and he's like, are you okay? Like, how's your summer going, bud? Doing that whole thing. And and then at the end he like fixes the fireplace and shrinks the 4-foot long tongue. So I feel like for all the chaos that he did cause, he makes a valiant effort to be nice to these mean people. So I'll give it to him.
Yeah, he puts it back. But I think it's funny because he's trying so hard to put on a good face for the wizarding community, but it's it's an impossible task for him being who he is and having his family being who they are. They just embody the chaotic energy. So it's hard. It's hard for he's trying as best he can, but at the end of the day, he is who he is, and they are who they are, and they're love them for what they are, but they do bring the chaos wherever they go.
Yeah, I hope that Hermione's parents, the Grangers, I hope they took to Mr. Weasley a little bit more, because he's just longing to have Muggle friends, I feel, and the Dursleys are just shutting that down. They're like, no thanks.
Yeah, and I mean, aren't Hermione's parents dentists? They don't strike me as the most frantic or I guess meeting that energy that he's bringing, but maybe they're a little bit more understanding than the Dursleys.
Yeah, that's true. Another quote, my like honorable mention quote, I know we talked about our favorite quote, which was that moment with Fred and George and Ron, but my another quote that I feel like describes this, what we're talking about, is from the book. It said, Harry doubted whether Uncle Vernon would have taken to Mr. Weasley even if he drove a Ferrari. I feel like that sums it up.
And I think if Arthur drove up in a Ferrari, that would have made Vernon a little bit more suspicious of the situation and maybe intimidated him even more, because he's like, what the heck? This guy's a wizard and he's driving a Ferrari. There's got to be something going on here.
Yeah. Where did you learn how to drive?
Yeah. But speaking of quotes, we've already gone over a couple of the ones I've written down. One was Ron saying, being oblivious, be like, what are we doing here? Has something gone wrong? The other one was Arthur talking about the eccentricity. And then my other one, it wasn't a quote from it's from the book. It's just like, no, it's not dialogue, but it is. And I think this is right after Arthur asks Dudley how's everything going? Like, you having a good summer, buddy? It says, Dudley whimpered. Harry saw his hands tighten still harder over his massive backside. And I think this is referencing, like, Dudley is terrified of wizards. The last wizard he met, or the last wizard he encountered, to put a pig's tail on him. And I think that's what they're getting at, is that, like, he's terrified that that's going to happen again. And lo and behold, a wizard again. He's let down by these wizards again, and they stick a tongue in his. They engorge his tongue. So he was right, but not to say he doesn't have it coming for being a bully and a butthead. Anyways, but he is right, and his instincts are right that he needs to be clutching his backside even harder.
Yeah, this is making a lot of sense to me now, thinking about it. Why in the beginning of the 5th book, when Harry and Dudley encounter the Dementors, like, the first thing Dudley does is punch Harry in the face. And it's like, he was just like, he's like, not again with these wizards. Like, I'm coming out fighting this time.
Yeah. I'm gonna take you down with me. I know you may not be responsible, but I'm gonna make somebody know that I don't like I don't know who is causing this, but I don't like wizards. I'm gonna make it known that I don't like what these wizards are doing to me.
Yeah, exactly. I did make a list of all of the modes of transportation to see what other options the Weasleys had that weren't blowing up a fireplace.
Yeah, go for it.
So this is everything I could think of. So if I missed something, you guys let me know. But they could have taken a thestral. They could have flown on thestrals or gone in, like, a carriage pulled by thestrals.
Have all of them seen somebody die? Because I know Ron and probably the twins haven't seen people die.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know that Arthur would have either. Or maybe Arthur would have, like, with some of the, like, Order of the Phoenix stuff. But maybe, so it's probably invisible to all of them.
Yeah. So I don't, I mean, it's a good idea. I don't know how they would find themselves in the, when they can't see them, find themselves in around some thestrals. So what's the next
It's
one?
an option.
It's an option. It's definitely an option. They definitely could get a hold of Hagrid and be like, hey, Hagrid, could we borrow some of these?
Yeah, hook us up. He's got a guy for everything.
Yeah, exactly. I got a thestral guy.
Yeah, speaking of Hagrid, he could have also provided hippogriffs. They could ride on hippogriffs.
Yeah.
I guess these are also kind of out because, the whole, like, secrecy. You can't be, like, flying through a Muggle neighborhood.
Yeah, but the thestrals are a good idea. I think that they're at least more conspicuous than a giant flying horse.
Yeah, and I guess that also takes out dragons.
But I put that, yeah. I don't know how conspicuous a dragon is.
Yeah, and then obviously brooms. Like, they could have flown on brooms. Then there's, like, you could take bewitched Muggle items. So, like, there's flying carpets, or Sirius's motorbike, or the Ford Angular that's somewhere in the forest.
Yeah, you can do Portkey into their backyard, something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh, Portkey. I don't even know if I wrote that one down. But yeah, or Ministry cars. They used Ministry cars in the book before. Why can't they take Ministry cars again?
Yeah. No, or the night bus, or
the night bus.
Yeah.
They used the Hogwarts Express train, so theoretically they could use train, or, like, whatever the subway is, and
the tube.
The tube. Then they have apparating. There's side-along apparition, but I'm not really sure what the rules are for that. Like, why couldn't Arthur just, like, go back and forth and, like, take them one at a time?
Oh yeah, I don't know the rules.
And also, why does he need to bring the kids with him?
Yeah, that's I don't know why Ron didn't serve any purpose. I guess the twins they would be like, oh, we'll grab the trunk or whatever. They needed some excuse to tag along so they could pull this prank on Dudley.
But Arthur could have just, like, spelled the trunk to come down the stairs.
I mean, Fred and George are definitely, like, the guys that if there's, like, a party at school, they're like, oh yeah, we'll bring the silverware. And they just go buy, like, plastic silverware from Walmart for $2 and like, oh yeah, everybody else, you signed up to bring the mac and cheese and the little cocktail meatballs, but no, we got the $2 spoons.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's basically it. I know they do like the flushing of the toilet and the telephone booth thing as the entrance to the ministry, but I don't know if that's really like a
that
travel.
might be a little bit more specialized.
Yeah. And then like we talked about in another episode, Voldemort's the only one who can fly seemingly without a broom. But yeah, so I think that's all I could think of. So I think the best option would have been for them to take some sort of car.
Yeah. Which I get that he does have a car. So I'm assuming he knows how to drive. At least we're talking about Arthur. And I guess when the twins and Ron drive, they aren't necessarily driving on roads. So they don't have to know the rules of the road, right? They're just flying because it's at night.
Yeah. There's no way they know the rules of the road.
No, there's no way they know how to do 4-way stops. They're not looking at any of the signs that are on the road. God forbid a highway.
So there are a couple illustrations for this scene. I'm just gonna share on our Instagram a couple of them. There's a bigger spread if you look at the book, but there's a good one of Arthur with he's looking all disheveled. He's got all the what is it called? Soot?
Yeah. Soot.
All over his head and shoulders, and he's got his glasses are askew. He's got a nice little all green outfit going on here.
Yeah, he's definitely styled up. It's funny you mentioned Head and Shoulders because it does look like he's got some dandruff going on in his hair from all that soot.
Yeah, exactly. He's got how I think green and red are on opposite sides of the color wheel, so they make each other stand out. So he's got this bright red hair. He's wearing green. It's really popping.
It's giving Christmas.
It's giving Christmas. And then there's a nice little illustration of the electric fireplace flying through the air.
What is that? Are those coals in the top? I don't know what is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You know how sometimes the electric fireplaces, they make it look like there's coals and there's fire?
Maybe,
I feel like I've seen that. So I think that's what it's supposed to be, but I'm not sure. If if you're an electric fireplace technician, write in. Tell us more.
My guess is that the electric fireplace isn't necessarily our idea of the modern, it just creates fire. It's more it's like a grill that just sits in a fireplace. You have a little starter, you put in your little coals, and you have a starter that turns on and lights the coals, and then there's heat that comes from that. It pushes out the heat, and then all of the smoke and whatever goes away.
That makes sense. Well, that would make sense too. Why there's all this soot and ash and everything. So they're actually creating that inside of the electric fireplace. It's not that it's being unearthed from the actual fireplace.
Yeah. It's just the electric fireplace is just it starts the fire with electricity. Whereas if you're in a traditional fireplace, you have to start the fire with a match or some sort of other starter, actually fire, not necessarily a spark. So you just take those coals, you change those coals out every so often so it stays able to be lit.
Yeah, and it looks like from the picture there's some sort of ventilation system, and there's what seems to be some fan, and you can kind of see the wire going. So yeah, but yeah, it's clearly broken and flying through the air. So it's a great picture. But that's all I have. I'll share all the illustrations on our Instagram. So go check it out. Follow us on social media. Shameless plug.
Got to do it.
Shameless plug because we collect plugs. Right?
We do. Yeah, that's a nice way to close it. Shameless plug because we have a good plug collection. So that's all for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed delving into the scene where the Weasleys destroy the fireplace. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you listen to. And please share the podcast with your friends and fellow Harry Potter fans if you think they'll like it.
Yeah, and next week we'll be covering Gilderoy Lockhart. I'm excited for that one. Until then, happy reading, happy listening, and may you never accidentally swallow a ton-tongue toffee.